Hi, welcome. You may have noticed a slightly different look to today's background. I'm actually coming to you from a slightly different location, a completely different computer, and it's a little bit of an experiment, but so the computer angle and the other aspects of what you might see in the background are going to be a little different. But today I wanted to talk to you about something that I've begun to see, or at least see too much of, that is going to require some attention. A lot of organizations are very interested in getting improvement. A lot of organizations are hoping that they could use agile and CMMI and lean ideas to move their company forward, which is phenomenal. That's a beautiful thing. I highly encourage it. I'm very much a fan of that, as you all know, and those are the kind of clients and people I want to work with. I've also noticed, however, that there's a lot of the same organizations make a mistake. It's unintentional. They accidentally put a high premium on getting evidence or on doing practices. And this is true whether they're doing the agile practices or whether they're doing CMMI practices or whatever. But they are putting these practices in front of them in such a way that they make the practices take priority over the benefit, the result of the practices that the practices are supposed to achieve. See, a lot of these practices are manifestations of various values and principles, and the practices are only one flavor of these manifestations. So by putting the practices as a priority, that actually causes organizations to be short-sighted about what it is that they can possibly achieve that is to their benefit. And by trying to not be about the practices, they've effectively made themselves precisely perform what the practices are doing. And I'm not saying that they're precisely doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm saying they are only doing what the practices are doing, and they're missing out on a lot of things that the values and principles behind those practices. So what happens with such organizations is they inadvertently become level chasing, or some other, for CMMI obviously it's levels, but in agile practices or lean, there's no levels exactly, but there are various practices that they say that they want to be doing, and they end up chasing after these practices, and that doesn't necessarily get them what they need to do, because these practices are merely one or several examples of how, when you pursue certain values such as lean and TQM, and when you have certain levels of discipline, and when you have sound engineering and sound services, when you have strong customer service and service management, when you have a culture that is supportive of inquisitiveness and experimentation, and in making mistakes to figure out the best way to do things, when you don't place these barriers ahead of them, such as you must do this practice and you must do this next practice, then those cultures and those attitudes can flourish. So the message today is, don't accidentally or inadvertently shortchange what your organization can actually accomplish by making practices more important than the values or principles that those practices come from. So that's it for today. Don't become an accidental level-chasing, pathologically box-checking organization, because that's not what you want to be. But by placing practices as a premium, you'll become one nonetheless. So let's avoid that approach by understanding the values and the principles that those practices have come from. I'll be talking about this throughout the year at several conferences coming up, so hopefully you'll be able to see a much more involved presentation on values, principles, and practices. Hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.